My last video on my favorite Christmas movies. So the next two, I'm going to talk about two more movies, and then I am done with sharing with you guys my favorite Christmas movies. And the next movie I want to talk about is a classic. And it is based on a book, just like The Polar Express was. It was based on children. This one is based on a children's book, and was originally an animated short. Well, not short, but like 30-minute long movie. But the one I'm going to talk about is the live action. And that movie is Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And in this version, we have, let's see if it's in here. So, I always feel weird. Yep, it's in here. I always feel weird because there's some movies that just have the disc in it. And they just feel so light compared to some other movies that have like 2 discs and a bunch of other junk in it, like advertisements and stuff like that. But in this live action version, we have Jim Carrey as the Grinch. Taylor Mossam is Cindy Lou Who. Molly Shannon plays Cindy Lou's mom. And her parents are actually in this one. We don't just meet Cindy Lou when he's stealing the Christmas stuff from all the Who's. And then we have a actual mayor of Whoville, Jeffrey Tambor. And then we also have, and the director, Ron Howard's brother, plays the assistant to the mayor. And then there is the love interest for the Grinch, played by Christine Baranski from Mamma Mia fame. She had a small part in Chicago as a reporter. What else has she done? She's done a lot. She's done like a handful of movies. But this one, the difference between this one is, well, everyone knows the basic story of the Grinch. You know, he was this creature that lived in Whoville on Mount Crumpet, and he knew that the Who's loved and were obsessed with Christmas. And so because his heart is 3 sizes too small, he hates the Who's and hates Christmas. So he decides one night to steal Christmas, all the Christmas decor, all the Christmas presents, the food from the Christmas feast from the Who's. And then he has an encounter, and then all of a sudden, when he's getting ready to dump all the stuff he stole, he hears the Who's singing Christmas carols, and he realizes that he didn't stop Christmas from coming after all. And he realizes there is more to Christmas than the shopping and the traffic and the competitions and the pride, and the feast and all that. It's all about love and spending time with your loved ones and giving to others. That is the true meaning of Christmas. That is what the Grinch learns by the end of the movie, and his heart goes 3 sizes bigger. Now, this one is that basic story, but in this one, we have because it's supposed to be a major motion picture that's supposed to be at least maybe a little bit longer than an hour, like half an hour or 2.5 hours. Maybe 2 hours. Although this is the kids' movie, so I think it's probably 2.5 hours. You have more stuff in it, like you see competitions, like there's a festival type stuff going on in Whoville that they do. Like and there's like really cute scene between Cindy Lou's mom and Martha May Puvioni, who is the woman that Christine Baranski portrays, and the two of them have been competing for the lights competition every year, and Martha May always wins. And it doesn't help that the mayor is in love with Martha May, so he's always willing to give the award to her, even if Cindy Lou's mom has the best lights on her house. But anyway, this one also, that's the other thing, is we meet Cindy Lou's parents. We get to know her family a little bit. Her dad's the mailman in Whoville, the mail carrier. She has 2 older teenage brothers. And Cindy Lou wants to know, she isn't just this cute little girl that meets the Grinch and everything. She is actually is like feels like Christmas has been lost to Whoville, and once the true meaning of Christmas has been lost, and is determined to find what has happened to Christmas. And that's why she goes to the Grinch. She finds out the story why the Who's are afraid of the Grinch, why they hate him so much. And she learns his history, which is the other thing. We get a backstory of the Grinch. And in this one we find out the Grinch did live down in Whoville for a while. He was like taken in when he was a baby by these two old spinsters. And they raise him, and he does have a little bit of animosity towards Christmas already as a baby and then as a kid. And he develops a little bit of a crush on Martha May, and she has a crush on him. And so, in the mayor, when he was a little boy, he was Martha May. He liked Martha May and was like, she's my girl. I can't have this weird green guy stealing her from me. So he kind of mocks the Grinch and, makes fun of him. And then when the Grinch tries to give Martha May his Christmas present, he mocks that. And everybody else makes fun of the Grinch too. And they bully him, so that he finally snaps and he gets so angry and hurt and just runs away and goes hiding on. Sorry, I'm trying to find a good. Okay, that's better. Sorry, I should know where's, but the light changes so much, so I don't know when's a good spot. And so he becomes bitter and angry and cold, and his heart shrinks, I guess, and he lives on the mountain and all by himself. And so, and you feel so bad for him, and you want to give him a hug, and you want to say, you're not a monster, you're not cold, you're not, you have a good heart, and you deserve to be happy, and of course, and we meet in. I love that we get, a little backstory on the Grinch. We find out why the Grinch is so mean. And we also, even though I don't like reading romance, I am a sucker for a good love story. So I love that there was a little bit of romance between the Grinch and Martha May and everything. And that there was a bit of a love triangle between them, And also, in the best part about this one, well, the second best, is that Jim Carrey does his own rendition of "You're a Mean One." Mr. Grinch was just the best. It's such a funny interpretation of the song. It's he does all these different weird voices and he sings the whole song. But the other best part about this is there are so many funny scenes in this movie. One of my favorite scenes is when he's talking he's come back from causing trouble and mischief in town, and he's like, I don't know why I ever leave this place. I got all the company I need right here. I'm perfectly content. And he's sitting in his lounge chair, and he's like, hello, hello, hello. Like they're the echo. How are you? How are you? How are you? I asked you first. I asked you first. I asked you first. Oh, that's really mature. Saying exactly what I say. I'm an idiot. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Fine. In fact, I'm not going to talk anymore. In fact, I'm going to whisper. That by the time my thoughts reverberate off the walls, I won't be able to hear it. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. And it's so funny. It's kind of silly, but it's just so funny. And there are some adult jokes in this movie too, like you find out how the Who babies come to, how the Whovian babies come in these little baskets with umbrellas, the parasol or something, and they show when the two old spinsters that adopted the Grinch were explaining to Cindy Lou how it all works and stuff. We get a flashback, we get a little scene of parents getting their babies and everything, and then this couple gets a baby delivered, like a package, and the father and the husband's all like, oh, look, honey, our baby's here, and then looks at the baby and it's like, he looks just like your boss. and there, and then there's both jokes for adults and kids, and it's just, and like a lot of good Christmas movies, it's so heartwarming and such a sweet story. And I don't know how many times I've said that in each of these videos, but it's a good, I definitely recommend it. Of course, I understand if you prefer the classic Grinch animated movie, but I personally, this is my favorite out of those two anyway. Now, I haven't seen the new version that stars Benedict Cumberbatch as the Grinch, and that one is also animated because they can't do another live action when it would make any sense. So I haven't seen it, and it seems like it's a little different. It has to be a little different than the original animated movie because they can't just recopy the animated movie. They have to do it differently. So obviously the animation is different, but I think there's more characters involved and there's more of a story to the Grinch than in the just like in this one. But I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know. I'm just guessing, but it looks like there's a whole bunch of actors in it playing voices. So I'm guessing we're gonna, have some character interactions and stuff, not just me and the Grinch and him stealing from the Who's. But yes, this is a classic, and I definitely recommend it. And just go listen to Jim Carrey's rendition of the You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. It's amusing, especially if you're a Jim Carrey fan. So the last one is one I do not have in my possession, but I have been watching it a lot lately. This year, and like I said, it's a franchise. As I said in previous, it's going to be 3 movies in one kind of situation. Like there were 2 sequels after the original. And that is the Santa Claus franchise starring Tim Allen, Eric Lloyd, Wendy Crewson, Judge Reinhold, David Krumholtz, I think his name is. It must be, because it's the only name that I can think of. And the first one is about this man, who he got divorced. Him and his wife are divorced. They have a little boy with them. His wife is already remarried to a therapist, played by Judge Reinhold, Neil, who was, I think, for really tacky sweaters. But, and he works at a toy company. He's like an executive or something. And he's kind of cantankerous, snarky type of guy. Not really likable, but charming at the same time. And his relationship with his son is a little bit fractured. It's a little rocky. Not really in a good place. And like when his ex-wife brings his son to stay with him for Christmas, to spend Christmas with him. And the little boy, just saying goodbye to his mom, he's like, he admits that he doesn't want to stay, and he's like, Mom, you have to come tomorrow morning, then you have to get here as early as possible. He doesn't like staying with his dad. And of course, that night, it's not that great, His dad burns the food, they have to go to a restaurant, and there are other dads there with their kids. And, they are out of all the things that Charlie keeps asking for. So, later that night, Charlie hears something on the roof, realizing it might be Santa Claus. He wakes up his dad, and it's like, I hear something, and Scott, I forgot to tell you, his name is Scott. He comes out, and he sees this guy on the roof, and calls out to him, and it turns out the guy is Santa Claus, and Santa Claus falls off the roof. And when he's trying to check for identification, he comes across a card that tells him that if something happens to Santa, then to put on the suit, and then the reindeer will know what to do. So Charlie goes, being a kid, he checks it out, and he finds that there really are reindeer, and Scott gets roped into flying the sleigh and delivering all the packages, and he does not want to do this. Like, he is kind of mean to, he gets chased by dogs. He's kind of mean to this one little girl that is waiting up for Santa, but fell asleep. Sophie, what are you doing? Sophie! No, Sophie! There's nothing in my purse for you. And then, by the end of the night, he's like, take us home, guys, and to the reindeer, and they end up at the North Pole, and he finds out from the head elf, and that's Damon Krumholtz's character, that he is the new Santa, despite the fact that he doesn't want to be and he doesn't believe in it. Because he's an adult and logic and reason get in the way. But then, so unfortunately, he has no choice, because if he doesn't play Santa Claus, then essentially he'll let down all the kids will stop believing, and all the elves will be out of the job, so he has no choice. But the next morning, waking up in his own house, he insists that it's all a dream, but Charlie knows it really happened. Charlie knows, and is so sure that his dad has become Santa Claus. And of course, he's telling Neil and his mom, Laura, what happened and everything, and they think it's all, at first they kind of laugh. They think it's a little weird, but they laugh it off, but then things start going weird for Scott. Even though he's determined not to believe it, he starts changing. His physical appearance starts changing, and he can't control it. And Charlie's being very enthusiastic about this. He's practicing driving the sleigh when he's old enough, or at least tall enough. And Laura and Neil are starting to worry a little bit, and then they see that Scott is physically changing and they think he's doing it on purpose, because what else would you think? Especially because he doesn't have the best kind of relationship with his son, and they are thinking, oh, you are trying to become the favorite parent, and you are resorting to these crazy drastic measures just to do that. So Laura's freaking out and panicking, is trying to convince Charlie, Neil and her trying to convince Charlie, your father is not Santa Claus. And it even results in him, losing he doesn't actually lose his job. His boss is like, okay, you need to take some time off, go see a doctor or therapist. He starts to gain weight. He starts growing a beard. His hair goes from brown to gray to white overnight. And he's struggling with believing this whole thing. And Charlie, he doesn't know how to handle it, because he thinks it's all he doesn't know if he believes it either. And he can't help it, that he's changing. And, even during Charlie's soccer game in the spring, he's really big now, and has the beard, and has grown the beard, and has the white hair and all that, or actually I think it's more kind of salt and pepper color at that time. And this little girl approaches him, recognizing him as Santa, and is like, I want this. And then all of a sudden, when Laura and Neil get there, all the kids are all lined up, telling him what they want for Christmas, and that they were good this year. And so Laura and Neil decide, okay, that's it. We gotta snap Scott out of this. And unfortunately, he ends up losing custody of Charlie, because they're thinking, Scott is crazy and he's desperate, so, maybe taking away his parental rights will snap him out of it. The problem, though, with that is that Scott cannot help it, and he really is becoming Santa Claus. But of course, the adults don't believe it. Charlie's the only one who believes it, who knows that his dad is becoming Santa Claus. And it's that scene when they go to the judge, and Charlie comes out, when Scott arrives, Charlie comes out and is like, don't worry, Dad, I told the judge everything about going to the North Pole and that you're Santa. And so, of course, the judge is thinking, okay, this kid is in danger from his father. And it's so sad and everything, and so heartbreaking to see, Charlie being taken away from his dad, and Scott sitting there at the window watching them walk away with Charlie, and realizing that he has lost his son. He has lost his privileges and rights to be with his son, whom he has grown to love even more than before. Because he loved his son before, I'm sure, but now he has gotten so close to his son, and Charlie wants to be with his dad all the time, loves his dad more than anything, and their relationship is slowly starting to mend and heal. And it's just such a heartbreaking scene. It's so heartbreaking. And it's Charlie who reminds him. It's Charlie who finally gets him to realize that, yes, and to accept and embrace that he is Santa. He has become Santa Claus. and it's, it's all, this whole story is all about belief, about love and belief, and the importance of that, and about this beautiful relationship between a father and a son, and the son's faith in his father. And it's, it makes me cry, especially towards the end of the movie, towards the climax of the movie, when like Scott realizes, I can't be selfish, I can't take my son with me, he has to stay here with his mom and stepdad. And little Charlie, who's like 6 or 7 years old, is crying, is like, so I can't be selfish either. I want to go with you. I want to be with you, Dad. And it's so sad because Scott has been waiting for Charlie to say that. Because, you can see it, that he is hurt in the beginning of the movie. In a small way, or at least you can guess. I don't know for sure. I don't have to rewatch it again and look at Tim Allen's performance during that scene, but that when Charlie tells his mom after she drops him off, she's like, you gotta come here early in the first thing in the morning, as soon as you can, because he doesn't want to be there. But to hear him finally say that he wants to be with his dad, that, he wants to go with him while he travels all around the world to deliver the presents, and it's so sad. And that theme carries throughout all three movies. It's not as, well, actually more so in the second movie. The third movie, that kind of takes a back seat. But it's also Scott's journey, not just his relationship with his son, but he also is slowly becoming not just a better father, but a better man and a kinder man. Because, he wasn't mean or anything, but he was just very snarky and didn't care, And, so he wasn't, like, evil or mean or anything. He wasn't, like, Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life, or, the mayor of the Grinch from How the Grinch Stole Christmas. He was just not the nicest guy in the world all the time. And then, so the second one in the movie is, like, he has been doing a great job. Charlie's now a teenager, going to high school. And Scott is loving being Santa Claus. He's having such a great time. And it's had such an impact on the world that he is playing Santa Claus. That he is Santa. Not playing, he is Santa. And his relationship with his ex-wife and her husband Neil is in a good place. He still will mock Neil for his, for him thinking he knows everything, and he has to put his theories out there all the time and has to analyze everything, and the fact that he has these ridiculously tacky sweaters that he wears all the time. But they have a better relationship. They have a very civil, polite, friendly relationship. But then the bad news hits, because first of all, there's two problems for Scott in this movie. One is Charlie is acting out, so vandalizing the school and everything, and so he is on the naughty. He finds out from Junie, and I think it's Junie, because I thought when I watched it this morning, because I recorded it because it came on last night, but we had gone out to eat, and Charlie's on I think, for some reason, I thought when he was addressing the girl who brings the hot cocoa to him by a different name, but I think it's still Junie. I don't know. From Junie that Charlie's on the naughty list because of that. And he also finds out from Bernard and Curtis, the hen elf, and number 2 elf, Curtis, played by Spencer Breslin, that he has part of his contract is also to find a Mrs. Claus by Christmas Eve, or he will de-Santify. He will no longer get to be Santa. He has to find a wife. So Scott has to go down back to where his family lives to check on Charlie, to deal with that, and hopefully find a way, because there's no way he's going to find someone at the North Pole. There's no one there except for him and the elves. So number 2 elf, so Curtis has come up with a solution that so he can be in 2 places at once. So they come up with they have a machine that can duplicate Scott, and so they create a toy Santa, a giant toy Santa, to deal with stuff up at the North Pole while he goes down and visits his family. Also played by Tim Allen, of course. And unfortunately, this toy Santa is not a good. He gets a little too into the power of being Santa Claus. Very big on the rules, obsessed with the rules, and he starts taking over and accusing every little infraction that kids commit, every little thing where throughout the year, the kids, in his eyes, in the toy Santa's eyes, the kids are bad. They all deserve coal. So he has them all, instead of stop making toys, and they make coal. They deliver coal to the kids instead, because every kid is naughty in his eyes. So all of that, while that is going on, Scott is on Earth, he is trying to deal with Charlie, and he has interactions with the principal, Carol Newman, who evidently decides to, after Charlie has vandalized the school twice, that she's going to suspend him. But Scott decides, is like, no, I don't want to take my son out of school, and offers for his son to do community service. And unfortunately, Scott gets roped into being parent rep for dealing with the discipline part. And he also is trying to go on dates, and he goes out with one woman who is a little too intense and Christmas obsessed, to the point where she has a charm bracelet with a bunch of Christmas related charms that she wears all year, and a turtleneck sweater with Santa's face on it, with Scott's face on the sweater. And she even performs her own rendition on their date. She gets up and performs a song to the tune of Man, I Feel Like a Woman, but it's Man, I Love Christmas, or something like that, or I Love Christmas, or something. It really is embarrassed Scott. He's like, okay, this is a bit too much. But anyway, luckily for him, despite their first date, and at first you see that him and Carol do not have very positive opinions of each other. Like, they met before, of course, and she is judging him as a father and thinking he's irresponsible and everything. And of course, she doesn't know the story, and that he is a better father than he was when Charlie was a boy. And he's thinking that she's a bit strict and stern and kind of scary. But when he shows up to help her, watch the other Charlie and the other kids cleaning up doing their community service, they kind of have this moment. She sees that he actually is a nice guy and not just full of sarcasm and rude comments. And, he sees that she really is passionate and really cares about these kids, and she is good at dealing with them, whether in a positive or a disciplinary light. And he even makes her laugh at one point, because she's like, oh, you actually do have a nice guy side, and I am a man of many sides. I'm in a Rubik's Cube of sides, or something. Now I can't remember I just watched it this morning. I don't remember what exactly the line. And that makes her laugh. And she also sees this little girl, recognizing him as Santa, approaches him and tells him that she's been good this year and what she wants for Christmas. And they have the two of them have a cute, they kind of connect. And he starts thinking, I like her. She's pretty, she's nice. I mean, yeah, she's a hard-ass principal, but he likes her. So he decides to, it's better than the crazy woman, Christmas-obsessed woman. And he's also desperate, so he goes on this date with her, and this whole time he's also, his physical appearance is going back to the way he used to be when he was just Scott. So he asks her on a date, and ends up bringing her to the faculty party, and he goes to these elaborate measures, using the little bit of magic he has, he conjures up a horse-drawn carriage, he makes it snow, he has hot cocoa, and he even gets her to open up a little bit about how her dad would go to these elaborate measures to have her believe in Christmas. And she even admits that she believes so strongly in Santa that she got into fights at school about it. And it's such a cute, beautiful scene. And you can see them slowly falling in love. And it's so cute. And, and it's just, and then, because when he sees that the faculty party is a bit dull, he conjures up some old toys that these adults had wanted when they were kids, including something for Carol, which is this baby doll that the last thing she told him that her father gave, that Santa had left her for Christmas. And they end up, she is so grateful to him and everything, and is like, I can't believe you did this. This is so wonderful that you did this, because she knows he did it. She just doesn't know how he did it. And they end up kissing. He conjures up mistletoe, and they end up sharing a kiss. And it's so sweet. It's so romantic and everything. And this is my favorite movie in the franchise. And then, unfortunately, when he tells her who she doesn't believe in, thinks he's just mocking her, or that he's trying to push her away and scare her away. And also, Charlie finds out that night that his dad is seeing his principal. And then finally, everything comes out. Like, first of all, Carol dumps him. And then when he finally talks to Charlie, Charlie's clearly mad and upset that his dad didn't tell him. And he reveals that the reason why he's acting out is because he feels like he's so frustrated that he has to keep the secret about his dad being Santa, which he thinks is the greatest thing in the world. He has all these friends who share that what their dads do, and he can't tell anyone what his dad does. And it's very sad, and and eventually, and then unfortunately, Curtis comes later and tells him, Curtis shows up and tells Scott that he needs to get back because the toy Santa's taken over. And Bernard is under house arrest, so he goes back, and Charlie is the one who talks to Carol and tells her, no, my dad really is Santa. He's not crazy, and he shows her that it is real, that there is real magic via the snow globe that Bernard gave him as a little boy. And and Charlie ends up saving the day, in a way by helping his dad. Like untying because his dad gets captured by the toy Santa, and there's this whole like fight in the air in the elm between the toy Santa and Scott, which it's so funny because if you guys know Tim Allen's work beyond just Home Improvement in this franchise, he is also the voice of Buzz Lightyear, if you guys remember correctly. And there's actually, when he's kind of jumping from reindeer to reindeer to get to the toy Santa so he can turn the sleigh around, the toy Santa said, he keeps making all these snarky comments and mocking him, thinking, I hope you fall, and all that. And he says, you are a sad, strange little man. Which, if you remember correctly, that's what Buzz says to Woody when they get trapped, when they end up being stuck at the gas station. But this is just, and it's, and this movie is so great, so funny, and, and like I said, and I think it's my favorite because in this case, I do like that the sequel has a little bit of romance in it. It's not sentimental or anything. It's actually really sweet and fun and and nice to see that Santa. I'm a sucker for stories where Santa has to go search for Mrs. Claus. In the movies, not in book format. And it still has that same magic and warm, fuzzy feeling the first one had. The problem, of course, is that the third one kind of loses that spark. I mean, it has a great message, and there's nothing wrong with the movie. It's a very funny movie. It's good. But it just doesn't feel the same as the other two did. So, in this one, Carol and Scott end up getting married in the second one. At the end of the second one. And then the third one, Carol is pregnant with Scott's child, of course. And Scott decides that, that Carol's not so lonely. He decides to invite the in-laws for Christmas. But he cannot tell them. So, once again, they got to keep the secret. that he is Santa Claus, and it's really stressing him out. And the problem is because it's the busiest time for him, he can't spend as much time with Carol and meeting his in-laws. So, and his in-laws don't understand. They think they're worried about their daughter, and they don't like how Scott is treating her, that he keeps ignoring her and not being available for her while she's pregnant. And everything is just chaos. Like, all the elves need his attention and everything to help him with things. And the problem is that Jack Frost has decided, knowing that his job sucks, that all he does is he represents snow and winter and stuff, and he doesn't have a holiday named for him. No, people don't admire or worship him or anything. He just has one little bit in the song, and of course Jack Frost's heart is really cold and selfish, and he decides he wants to be Santa. He decides that because Santa is so beloved and all, that he wants the Santa job. And he's played by Martin Short, by the way. Short. And so he starts making things worse for Scott with his family, planting seeds of doubt and adding to his stress. But of course they don't realize it at the time. They don't realize that's like Jack Frost kind of planting things in their heads and all that, and adding to the frustration and the anger between Scott and his in-laws and everything. And finally, Scott just goes off on his own to, get some air and de-stress and everything. And Jack Frost takes advantage of it, steals Scott's snow globe, and tricks him into saying, "I wish I had never been Santa Claus." And that results in the escape clause activating. So that Scott can go back to who he was, he can go back to the past to where that never happened. And Jack Frost becomes the new Santa Claus. So, unfortunately, it's like It's a Wonderful Life in the premise where he just doesn't things. Like with It's a Wonderful Life, where he sees the world where he would never be Santa Claus, and Carol's not in his life. I don't think we ever see what actually happens to her. She's just not there. We don't get a version of Carol in this reality. And it turns out that Charlie didn't want, his Neil to be his dad, and Neil tried to be his dad and be responsible for him, be a father figure, but Charlie didn't want that. So they had to go to therapy, and the relationship between him and Laura and Charlie just fell apart. But they still managed to have, they have a daughter in the second movie, Lucy. Neil and Laura do. I do not know why Lucy's a redhead. I mean, she's an adorable little girl, but why is she a redhead? Neither of them are redheads. Unless they have a little bit of ginger in there somewhere. But anyway, or maybe two brunettes can have a redhead. Although, I'm not a redhead. Neither is my sister. But anyway, and Lucy had a relationship with Scott before. He was Uncle Scott to her, but in this one, he's just a stranger. Because of course, in this reality, Scott is even more of a workaholic. And Jack Frost has basically done away with the whole giving kids gifts, traveling around the world. The reindeer are displayed in a petting zoo, and he's basically turned the North Pole into a tourist attraction where kids can go, pay money to come. And Scott sees how all these kids, they don't care. They're disrespectful, they're rude. All they care about is getting, whatever they can buy. They're what they want. They're like, "I want this. Oh, Dad, I want this." Or, "Get out of the way." And, it's kind of a heartbreaking scene as he realizes, as he sees this. And what's even worse is because when he runs into Neil, of course, in this reality is like, you put all this pressure on me. You abandon your family and everything. And Neil doesn't realize that Scott has changed. And he's not the Scott of this reality. He doesn't realize what he's done in this reality. And he's just giving a glimpse of what could have happened, what could be if he's not careful, if he gave up being Santa. And then he has to get Lucy to help him get the snow globe to so he can do the same thing to Jack Frost. And of course, he reverses everything. Everything gets back to the way it was, and he apologizes to Carol and his in-laws, and is like, no, I've lost sight of everything and of what's important, and he's just like, he has that same reaction that in these kind of stories that these people always have when it's like they get back to reality. It's like, oh my god, yes, I'm back and everything's okay and all of that, and it's just, and it's like a Wonderful Life. And then Lucy ends up being the one to thaw out Jack Frost and warm his heart, because Jack Frost, when she had tried to stop him, because she figured out what he was up to, but when she called her parents, Jack froze her parents, and the only way to unfreeze her parents is if Jack is thawed out himself. And so the ending is very sweet and sentimental and everything. And I mean, so is the ending in the second one too, and the first one, but it's a little more cheesier. But it's so cute though. At the end of the second one, they do that thing that people always do when they have when the couple finally kisses and they have an audience. Everyone's like, "Aww." Oh, actually, that ends up happening in the second one when, of course, I don't think it's much of a spoiler, even if you haven't seen the movie, because it's a Christmas movie. Of course, it's gonna end happy. So, and I just told you what happens in the third movie. So, I mean, of course, you're gonna guess that Scott and Carol get married at the end of the second movie, and when they do the kiss at the end of the ceremony, everyone's all like, all the elf children are like, "Aww." I think it's so funny when there's the collective "Aww," when a couple, kisses and hugs and all that, it makes up when they have an audience. And it's always it's a cliche, but it's so cute. But it's one of my favorite cliches, and when there's a romance involved. So the third one, it didn't have the same. It was funny and it was cute, and like I said, you can't go wrong with that whole lesson of like what happens in It's a Wonderful Life, where people learn to appreciate what they have, and when they think, oh, it was better what if I had taken this road instead of this, maybe people would be better off, and then realizing, no, it's worse. Things were made worse because if I took this road. And it's, but either way, the whole thing is so great, and such a beautiful Christmas story, and it's, it's a modern Christmas story, and it's a different origin, a different take on the whole Santa Claus origins. And I love like I said, I love stories where there's the whole idea of that Santa Claus being a real person, and people not realizing they're interacting with Santa, and Santa falling in love, and because he's still a man. I mean, he's still male, so I don't know if he would, because some people in some of the little carols and stuff, I think they refer to, like in A Night Before Christmas, the night before Christmas, I think they refer to him as a jolly old elf. So I don't know, as an elf, if he was an elf, would he have the same? But it's a funny movie, and the first one was Tim Allen's first movie after Home Improvement. Well, it was I think he was still doing Home Improvement. But it was apparently really hard to get it made, the first one. And Tim Allen was not too comfortable in that fat suit he had to wear. Because if you've seen Tim Allen, he's a skinny guy. He's not in, he's like, so it's not like he doesn't physically look the part. And he doesn't have a beard or anything. I don't know if he'll ever grow a beard. Who knows? Maybe he will one day when he, but I mean, I think though he had a beard once in a movie. One of those beards that goes like circles your mouth. I think he had one of those. I don't know, maybe not. But anyway, so those are my favorite Christmas movies. And if you haven't already, feel free to share in the comments below what your favorite Christmas movies are that you like to watch every year, whether you have them or not, because I always feel weird when I say it's my favorite and I don't even have my own copy of it. I always feel like, do people think that, oh, you don't have it, so how is it your favorite? But no, these are my favorite Christmas movies, even though I only have 2 of them. So, like I said, feel free to share in the comments below what your favorite Christmas movies are. And I hope you are having a good holiday, whether you celebrate Christmas or a different holiday. Although, I would imagine if you're watching this, you probably do celebrate Christmas. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I would think. But anyway, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and click subscribe if you haven't already. I would really appreciate it. And as always, I hope you all are enjoying your reading. And I will talk to you later. I don't know if I'll make a video before Christmas is over. If I will have to film it in the next couple days. Probably, I mean, like if I made another one, I would have to film it tomorrow. Or maybe, I don't know what day. Or sometime Friday or Thursday, either in the morning, afternoon, or after work if I don't get home too late. But like I said, I mean, if not, if I don't film one, then I will see you all next year. But if I do, then just ignore that. Just dismiss it, and I will see you when I see you. Right, bye. I hope that one uploads.